Thanks to the support as a channel member, Owen Martin. Well, it's now or never, folks. We've been given a spectacular transfer budget, a spectacular wage budget. We move into our new stadium in just 1 year. Let's put together the end game squad. Hello and welcome to part 139 of Wembley to Wembley. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode is our season review and transfer special at the end of the 20th season of the save. I genuinely think at this point, this is my longest ever YouTube save. I am ready to be corrected by any of you who think I might be wrong, but I don't think I've ever done a 20 season save before. And we're going at least 2 more years. This is the season review at the end of the season where we won our first ever trophy, the Carabao Cup, the big one. It's all downhill from here, boys and girls. But let's do the season review. I didn't skip past it this year. We still don't know for certain that we're in the Champions League. We're pretty sure we're in the Champions League, but we don't know for certain. Signing of the season went to Sam Lambert, which is weird because he started less than half the games. I mean, he was tipped to be one of the contenders for European Golden Boy, so he's probably the highest potential youngster that we've got. The other one who is very well worth keeping an eye on is Paulo Roberto, who I think ended up like 48th on the next gen list, the first ever Wembley player to make it onto the next gen list. But I think the big standout from last time was the free transfers we brought in. Paranos, Belkacemi, to a lesser extent Pep, but Renault. We've brought in so many free transfers that contributed so many goals. If we can bring in 2 or 3 of them again, bring in 2 or 3 18-year-olds to help with long-term homegrown at club status, that will still leave us some money to buy 2 or 3 like better than we've got now first teamers. And I think if we manage to pull that off as a window, we'll say it quietly, we could win the league. I think we could win the league. I don't want Football Manager to hear me though, because it will scupper me if it thinks that's what I'm plotting. As far as the game is concerned, I'm still just attempting to avoid relegation. It's comfortable with me doing that. Obviously, we did 100% attendance on Dulwich Hamlet's ground. Goodness me, we need to move into our new stadium. And if we have a look at money, or I guess summary stuff, not just money stuff, but money, bits and bobs, sponsorships went up massively last year. We could do with that increasing by a similar kind of amount this year as well. And we'll actually start to be competitive in terms of sponsorships. Broadcast revenue went down a bit, which is weird. I guess what would have been broadcast revenue maybe turned into prize money. Yeah, competition prize money, because we made so much money out of the Champions League, but I guess had a few fewer games on the telly. Don't really understand how broadcast revenue dropped when we went into the Champions League. That's a weird one. But corporate and hospitality up massively. Prize money, that's your Champions League, up massively. Match day revenue up massively. We sold over 10,000 shirts, which is quite impressive for us, over £1 million in merchandise sales. That would pay our wages for 1 week. And this was the team of the year. Beswick in goal, a back four of Ungessen, Brewers, Agume and Vaughan. Fanimo and Christodoulou in midfield, albeit the wrong way round. Renault, Ansong and Paranos behind. Paul Williams up front of the fantabulous Williams brothers. Accolades wise, Sam Lambert won Fans Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year, which is not a bad achievement at all for a chap who started less than half the games. That's bonkers. He is our all-time record signing though, for now. So I guess the fans get excited with him because that's also why he won signing of the season. Top scorer was Belkacemi with 18 goals in the end. Not bad for a free transfer, but at 29, if someone wants to give us 30 or 40 million for him with Williams ready to take his spot, I'm not against it, because it then gives me money to go and spend on an even better striker. Renault got most assists with 11, Fanimo most man of the matches and highest average rating, and also quite a lot of goals as well for Fanimo. And we set some club records. Beswick setting the club record for clean sheets in a season, which is no mean feat, considering we've had seasons down in the lower leagues where we've done 100 points, had massive long unbeaten runs. We've never kept as many clean sheets as we kept this season in the Premier League. So that's impressive stuff. Lambert, all-time record signing. Musat, all-time record sale. How's Musat getting on? I feel like he might end up being the one that got away. Maybe not. Maybe not. And then, of course, we've got timeline stuff that we're not that bothered about. Our social media following has finally tipped up above 1 million followers, which is jolly nice. The board are still just looking for us to avoid relegation from the Premier League, be competitive in the Europa League, I hope we're in the Champions League. We won't find out for sure just yet, but it's good to be able to tell the boys, just survive. We're good enough to not be involved in a relegation battle. There you go. They're happy with that. Do we get any confirmation of any potential Champions League? Not yet. We'll go to the USA on our holiday. Go to Disney World, maybe. That would be nice. But I think we have to wait until all of the finals are played before we know for sure if we're going to be in the Champions League. We have moved our youth category up from 3 to 2, which costs £10 million a year now to run our youth setup. I mean, we'll ask to improve that again. And in fact, we'll ask to improve everything, improve youth facilities, just do everything. Just keep improving everything. Improve youth recruitment. We'd love a really good young player to come through the youth system before the end of the save. It's probably a little bit late now, but we are starting to get the off the pitch facilities sorted. Obviously, we've got Wembley Stadium this time next year. It's all very exciting. Right, I can't really do anything else until I know for sure if we're in the Champions League or the Europa League. So I will get to that point. The board may feel that they've invested enough money in recent years, which is fair enough, I guess. Yeah, okay, fair enough, board. Is there anything else I can ask you for? Probably shouldn't ask for more money just yet. We've already got 100% retained transfer revenue. Okay, fair enough then. Can we add any more staff this summer? One more scout. Let's add another scout. We've already got the best coaching setup in the Premier League. We want to try and get the best recruitment department, but we're not quite there yet. But yeah, let's see what European competition we're in and then come up with a plan for probably the first time in the 20 years of the save. We've not got a load of contracts expiring and players leaving on free transfers. Most of them that came up the leagues with us are now gone. So anyone who leaves the club this summer is probably leaving because we've sold them, not because we couldn't afford to keep them or they didn't want to stay. I don't think we've got anybody out of contract. Obviously, the loans are going back. Chima David, even he's got a year left. So yeah, and of the 3 loans, those 2 have already arranged to join permanently, and we could sign Kibwana permanently for 2.8 million if we wanted to. I'm inclined to not bother. He only started 4 games for us all year. He's a handy squad player, but I think we can do better this summer. So yeah, lots to do, boys and girls. Let's find out what European competition we're going to get out of here, Brighton. Actually, you know what? Keep him. No interest in him. This is a first for Wembley FC as well. We've got 2 players in. I thought it was the Premier League team of the year. I mean, it's still good to have 2 players in an international or a continental team of the year. African 11 of the year, and Gesson and Agume both making it in there. I'll level with you. When I pressed record, thought it was the Premier League team of the year. Alas, it's not. Agume won African Defender of the Year as well. Up there with Rushwin Dortley off of my Pentagon save as Kev players who've won African Player of the Year. We've got a new big sponsorship from a mysterious financial services company. That's always very welcome. More things like that. Let's have a look at our sponsors now. Okay, we're starting to accumulate the sponsorships. This is what I'm talking about. That's a 5-year deal as well. 5 years at £5 million percentage. That's a £25 million contract. We're starting to put things in place to make it when I do eventually retire, this club is not just going to crumble back down where we came from. We're going to have great facilities, great stadium, great off the field setup with all of our staff, and financially set for at least the next 5 or 10 years as well. I think we're getting close. We're 1 or 2 seasons away from Wembley being just a long-term established Premier League side, which is super duper. We've got 2 players going off to the Euros, including Gregor Tennant going with Scotland. I mean, he's never played for us. He played 16 games in the Scottish Premiership. Maybe I should have paid a bit more attention to this guy. I mean, he can't become homegrown at club for us because he went out on loan. But he's not terrible, is he? This guy, we spent money on in the summer and then have barely used 2 substitute appearances. I don't think we needed another defender. If you remember, I brought him in when Kerslake went to Man United and I officially decided Fanamo was a midfielder. I think 1 defender too many probably. But that is the training facilities upgrading. Don't worry, that's a bug. It didn't cost that. That's how much the ground is costing. But that's another upgrade to facilities. So we've now got excellent training facilities. Oh, this is lovely, lovely, lovely. And there we have it, the confirmation that Wembley are in the Champions League once again, through finishing 5th place in the league, thanks to the UEFA coefficient. Lovely, lovely, lovely. We get a bit more cash flow through from that as well, which is always very welcome. Vincent Kompany is the new Chelsea manager, which is interesting because he's won the Premier League last 2 years in a row with Newcastle, but has decided to go to Chelsea. That's a weird decision from Vincent Kompany. We've got a player in the Champions League dream team. I want to go back through the comments because when I signed Agume, there was a couple of comments saying he is never a Premier League quality centre-back. Well, I would like it on record that this guy is in the Champions League Dream 11, the African Dream 11. He's the African Defender of the Year. He's a starting defender for us after 2 years at the club. I think it's fair to say he's a Premier League quality defender. He seems to be doing all right. So if you are that person who said he wasn't good enough, own up and we'll all respect you more for it. So the transfer window is open. Couple of weeks until free transfer day. So we've still got loans here and a loan that's out of the club. DeSalvo will be coming back in and being reassessed and hopefully reintegrated into the squad over the course of the summer. Moulemans and Williams both join us permanently, so I've left them there. Kibwana have moved down to the reserves just to basically forget that he exists because I don't have any intention of keeping him at the club. Likewise, any of these loans, I mean, if there were any of them that I would consider keeping, I'd bring them into the first team squad to look at them. To be honest, they're all done. I think they're all going out on loan or being sold this summer. So these are the players we are considering part of our first team squad. There's 28 of them. A little bloated. We're certainly going to have to move some players on before we can buy. That being said, those 4 at least are very much just here to make up the numbers. They're youngsters. We just don't want to loan them out really, although we loaned one of them out. They're here to become homegrown at club, and obviously Lambert still young and up and coming as well. In fact, he's been training to play a Segundo Volante and he can't do it yet. He's taking his sweet time with that. So if we have a look at what we've got, one thing we do need to be aware of, we might lose Renault this summer. You can see there's interest in him from a couple of Saudi Arabian clubs. He has a release clause. I've tried offering him a contract. He doesn't want to discuss a contract because of interest being shown in him. So assuming one of those 2 clubs comes and meets his release clause, he could be on his way. I think he's the only player where that's potentially a problem. I'm trying to remember what screen I can look at to see where release clauses live. Is it on here? No. I mean, I could just add it in, I guess. If we add insert column, contract, clauses, release, minimum fee release clause. So who's got one? Ian Vaughan has got one at 16 million, which might need dealing with, although I don't imagine anyone's going to give us that kind of money for him. And Gesson has a 64 million pound one, which I don't think we need to worry about. Lambert has one at 14 million, which could be problematic. We might actually have the similar problem with him. But let's try, let's get him tied down to a contract that doesn't involve, we're not going to negotiate too much. We just want him tied down. So that's one for him. Renault at 32.5 million. We know about Pep, 46.5 million. We'd bite your arm off for that. Vaughan, I wonder if we can maybe upgrade on Vaughan as a 3-star current ability centre back, right back. It's possibly a little area of weakness in the squad. I'm not going to rush to give him a new deal. But getting Lambert tied down, I think, is important. If we lose Renault, we'll just have to replace him, I guess. It's not the end of the world, especially with the amount of money that we've got available to us. So if we have a look through the squad at what we have got position by position and start to come up with a plan, we've obviously got Beswick as our starting keeper. There's an argument we could maybe do better. We could maybe bring another, similar to what we did when we brought him in over the top of Slocum. Maybe it's time to bring someone even better over the top of him if the right guy is out there at the right price, which would, of course, mean moving Slocum on. David is going to be on his way out as well, so we probably need to find ourselves a homegrown in-nation third-choice keeper and then maybe a new first-choice keeper and push Beswick down. I think that might be not a terrible plan. Left-back, and Gesson is great. We don't need to upgrade on him. Linares is a great utility guy to cover both fullback positions, and Martin, likewise, can cover left-back back, he can cover centre back. He's useful to have. Paulo Roberto is now accomplished at playing there, having been forced out there last season. So he's there as an interesting option at left back as well. I can't imagine I'm ever going to use him there again, but it's an option. And then we want to sell Livingston, Graben, McBride, probably Shane O'Brien, who had to play a couple of games mid-season when everyone was off at the African Cup of Nations. Right back, Vaughan is the starter, but I think we can do better. We can bring someone in over the top of him. And then as a backup, Castro hasn't quite worked out the way I hoped he would. I think we can probably move Castro on at 25 years old. If you're 25 and not a starter, it's time to move on, I think, is a decent rule of thumb, especially if you're 25, not a starter, and can only play one position. He's not exactly helping out the squad depth really at all, especially when there's so many utility players ahead of him at that right back position. So I think we sign a new starter. Vaughan becomes backup. Castro moves on. At centre back, we've got probably too many players, especially when you think we've got De Salvo coming back from his loan, Roberto, who's also got lots of potential. We don't want loads of players in their way. That's potentially an argument for moving on Martin, because Roberto, now he can do left back, can do everything Martin can do, but with much more potential. So there's an argument for moving Martin on, although him being homegrown at Nation is a big advantage, because we're running out of homegrown in Nation players. Fanemo is now a midfielder, so we don't consider him as part of the defenders. Meulemans joins us permanently this summer. Buriak still has decent potential. He's still relatively young. It hasn't worked out for him yet. Agume we like. Brewers, maybe we move on and then see how De Salvo is when he comes back from his loan. If we move a couple of defenders on, potentially Buriak, potentially Brewers, there's an argument for bringing one more in, or equally a strong argument for pushing Paulo Roberto and Simone De Salvo into the first team squad properly. In midfield, we've got a lot of defenders who can play as the anchor man. We haven't really got a natural midfielder who can be the anchor man. Fanemo obviously does that now, and then everyone else at the club can also play there. So I think we're okay there. Where we could do with a bit of strength in depth easier at the Segundo Volante position. We've obviously got Christodoulou there as the starter. We don't really have anyone else who can do it. Cottam can move on. He's been here 2 years. It's not really worked out. We need someone to properly compete with Christodoulou. I don't want to bring someone in over the top of him, but at 2.5 stars of current ability, it might happen and we might all be sad about it. But if we want to win the league, we've got to be ruthless, and that might be an area to be ruthless. Obviously, there's a place here for him forever because he's the only homegrown at club player of Premier League quality in the world. So we can't take him out of the squad, but he doesn't necessarily have to start every match if we can find someone who suits that role even better. And as you can see from squad depth, it is a weakness, although I think that's more to do with the fact that he's the only guy who can do it. We don't really have any depth in that position. Attacking midfield, we're very strong. We've got Ansong, we've got Lambert, we've got other guys who can cover there as well, but these two, both very good young players. On the left, if Renault goes, we have a problem. I'm not against Pep leaving this summer. He hasn't really worked out. Duffy will go. Hermoso is in free fall. There's an argument to bring in 2 left wingers this summer and let Renault go. Certainly bring in one regardless. We're much stronger on the right, where we've got Rob Williams joining us permanently. We've got Paranos, who is one of our top scorers last year. Williams can play out there too. Belkacemi can play out there too. We're very strong on the right. We've got Tramini as a youngster with 5 stars of potential on that side as well. So we certainly don't need a right winger. And then up front, if we get the right offer for Belkacemi at 29, and by the right offer, I mean like 40, 50, 60 million pounds, crazy money. I don't mind going with Williams either as starter or backup, and depending on who we bring in to replace Belkacemi. I think we probably need one more striker if Pep leaves anyway, and I think Pep does leave. And not forgetting, in amongst all of that, we've got loads of money in both of our budgets as well. So there's lots of stuff to be getting on with. I'm going to try and get some of these players sold that I don't want. We'll then see what we've got available for free on the 1st of January and then fill in the gaps with players as we find them, I guess. It's a plan. Well, it's fair to say I've spent that 2 weeks between the transfer window opening and free transfer day being quite busy, starting with a little bit of a clear out. So Castro has gone to Burnley for £15.5 million. That's a player we signed for less than £1 million. And I guess he was regular the first season, lost his place halfway through it though, and has never really been in the team since. This is the sign of things to come. Now we're a Champions League club. We can set our own price. Jared Cottam has gone to Manchester United, £9.5 million. why clubs keep paying mega money for him. We got him for an absolute steal and never used him, but he's gone to newly promoted Manchester United. Dean Martin has gone to Leicester for £10.5 million, a man we brought in on a free transfer and barely used last year. Alex Kerslake made his move to Manchester United permanent, £12.5 million, again for a guy we brought in on a free. Pep, we signed on a free last summer. We started him twice and sold him to Eibar in Spain for £17.5 million. Jeremy Hermoso, who we signed for just under £1 million, we've sold to Valencia for £3.4 million. And Benedictus Brewers, who we signed from Derby for £5 million last summer, and he had so many terrible games on camera, he's gone to Bochum for £15.75 million, 3 times what we paid for him. We then spent that money. Firstly, we have a new goalkeeper. Mamadou Biaye is a 28-year-old Bissau Guinean goalkeeper, international, 3.5 stars of current ability. So better than Beswick. Was Sporting's starting keeper for the last 10 years, over 200 games for Sporting. And he's here. He's our guy now. Lorenzo Van Wyk is a 23-year-old Dutch former under-20 international. Left winger, 3.5 stars of current ability, 4-star potential. He's our insurance for if Renault leaves. At the moment, he'll probably rotate with Renault. He might end up our starting left winger if Renault ends up going to Saudi Arabia. He comes in from PSV Eindhoven. Ander Diaz is a 25-year-old Spanish former under-20 international right back who can also play centre-back and left-back. He's 6'5", and you can't teach that. He is not a centre-back. He can't head the ball. But he will be a defensive right-back to balance Nguesson as a very attacking left-back. We're going to have kind of a lopsided defence situation. £39 million to bring him in from Real Sociedad, but he's been a starter in La Liga for 5 years. That's how much you pay for a 25-year-old starting La Liga defender. And then we also brought in Mamadou Mane from relegated Sheffield Wednesday. He's a centre-back, formerly of Sporting. Sheffield Wednesday spent £20 million for him. He started for them in the Premier League for 5 years. He's still only 27 years old, so plenty of time left in him yet. £49.5 million, but he is better than any other centre-back we've got at the club, and allowed us to let some of those other guys leave. And then we also brought in a striker. Raul Salaver is a 27-year-old Spanish former under-21 international who's been banging in the goals in La Liga for Lugo. They are pretty good goal returns for not a great team. He is better than Belkacemi, so we can let him go if someone wants to come and make us an offer for him, and Middlesbrough seem interested. So if they want him, they can have him for 50 million and we'll go and spend the money elsewhere. And then we had the 2 loanees who became permanent. Meulemans, who joins us for £14.5 million from Derby, and Rob Williams from Manchester City for £6.5 million. Even with all that business done, we still have like 35 million in our budget once we make sure we're covering wages. 32 million of budget left. And if we have a look at the squad planner, it's a very different looking beast now. We can let David leave. Slocum can become third choice. Beswick can become backup, and they can all blooming like it. At left back, we've still got Linares as backup to Nguesson. Diaz could cover there if need be. We're trying to get rid of Livingston and Graben. There's still more players will leave. Paulo Roberto will provide some cover there as well. In fact, we've not offered McBride out, so let's offer McBride out and make sure we just generate as much cash as we possibly can. We want an actual transfer for him, so let's offer out McBride. At right back, Diaz will be our starter. In fact, let's make the change here. He's going to start as a fullback on support, and then it just gives us a little bit more defensive solidity while he's bombing forward and he's bombing forward. There was a method to the madness in spending so much money on him. He's exactly the kind of right back I think we needed. Vaughan can be his backup, and obviously we've got plenty of other guys who can cover there if need be. We're still going to start Christodoulou as our Segundo Volante, and I would still like to bring in an alternative to him. We don't really have one. In fact, every other defensive midfielder we've got is basically a centre-back. So we probably do need to go and bring in another midfielder. We have still got Lee Leake, but I don't expect him to be breaking into the team this year. So I mean, De Salvo might step up. Who knows? Maybe I want to take him off the loan list. You know what? He's ruined now. He can't become homegrown at the club anymore, I don't think. So he may as well be loaned out again for his development and all that. But I think we still need another midfielder. That's next on the list. And then on the left wing, we've got Renault, Van Wyk, and Gessen can play there. We're trying to get rid of Duffy. If Renault leaves, we still need another left winger in. We've potentially got one identified as well. On the right-hand side, Williams, Paranos, the other Williams, lots of other guys who can cover there. McCaffrey, we haven't offered him out. Let's offer him out. Nobody seems interested, so get my old intermediary mate in again. Just clear these players out. We are looking to have a proper clear. We've got Tramini as a backup, remember? And then we've got Ansong, Lambert, Salaver can play there. Christodoulou can play there. We've offered Lowry out, who was on loan last season. And then up front, Salaver, Belkacemi, who I haven't offered out, but I'm waiting for someone to come in for. I don't want to force him out. But at the same time, if Middlesbrough come and offer me £50 million for him, we will take it and then deal with it accordingly. But we'll leave him knocking around the place for now, just because it's handy to have three good strikers. But still lots of business to do. It's free transfer day. We'll see what we can find for freebies, and then continue wheeler dealing, I guess, for the rest of the summer. The media, do they still think we're the worst team in the league? They don't. We've gone from 2,000 to 1 last year to 350 to 1 this year. How far do we have to scroll to find our best player on here? Still quite far. And it's Rob Williams, which is interesting. And the new boy, Salaver. But the fact that he's so highly rated, quite exciting. Free transfer time. Well, there wasn't anybody any good on a free transfer, so I think we've reached that point of the save, but we have, as promised, continued wheeler dealing, including getting rid of loads of our heroes from previous years. Conor McBride has gone to Leganés for £1.2 million. Where did we get to? Chima David's gone to Derby for 50,000. Sean Carroll has gone to Valencia for 950,000. Never played a game for us. Look at all those loans he had. We've turned into Chelsea. Kamani Dixon, this one I feel sad about, but he was playing in League One last year. And he's gone to Werder Bremen for £2.5 million. It's a great move for him. Shane Lowry, who I never learned to say his name, was also playing in League One last year, has now gone to Lugo for 1.8 million. Keenan Graben has gone to Roma for £1 million. Andy McCaffrey, who never really broke into our team, has gone to Borussia Mönchengladbach for 1.4 million. Adam Duffy has finally left the club permanently, gone to Lecce for 1.4 million after a successful loan in Serie A last season. Jonathan Livingston, I mean, he looked good when he first came in, then broke his leg and never got back in the team. Another one who spent last year playing in League One has now gone to Nuremberg for £2.2 million. And Gregor Tennant, fresh off of being a squad player for Scotland in the Euros, has gone to Rangers for 145,000 after spending the second half of last season on loan at Hearts. We used that money that we generated there to bring in a couple more signings in positions we needed to strengthen. We've got a couple of midfielders. So Alessandro Sabatino is another Belgian, 21-year-old Belgian international, 17 caps for Belgium already. Slightly different profile of midfielder to what we've got at the moment. Neither an anchorman nor a segundo volante. He will learn to be both. 3.5 stars of current ability, 5 stars of potential, theoretically better than any other midfielder we've got. He joins from Anderlecht for £37.5 million. Had a loan at Huddersfield a couple of years ago in the Championship. Wasn't great. We have a wonder kid. I think this is our first legitimate wonder kid, although he's no longer shown as a wonder kid. I promise he was listed media description wonder kid when we signed him. Alexander Lipp is a 20-year-old Austrian international, again, midfielder, different to the kind that we've got. Can play attacking midfield, can play defensive midfield. These two give us a different option in midfield. We have the option to play with a playmaker in there now, either alongside Christodoulou or maybe alongside one of the defenders like Fanamo. I don't know. I like to have options. Options are good. He only cost £5 million, had a release clause at Austria Vienna. And then we spent another £30 million on a Sheffield Wednesday defender. Justin Rath is another one who was listed media description Wonder Kid and I lost it joining us. He's a 20-year-old Austrian international, 17 caps for Austria already. He's a centre-back, but only 5'11", can also play right-back. So he's another one who can do that more defensive right-back role that we're looking for now. 3.5 stars of current ability, 4.5 stars of potential. We actually signed him for less than Sheffield Wednesday did a year ago. Sheffield Wednesday, by the way, finished 20th in the Premier League last year. Let me just, because I feel like you lot are going to bring this up. Finished 20th in the Premier League, conceded 63 goals. It's actually not as many as Crystal Palace, who finished above them. After they finished 20th in the Premier League last year, we've now given them £79 million for their 2 starting centre-backs to play for us in the Champions League. I'm comfortable with it. I hope you're comfortable with it. And that's us pretty much spent up, unless somebody leaves. Belkacemi is the obvious one who might leave. Or, of course, what's his face? Renault, if we get the offer for him, because as far as I'm aware, he still doesn't want to discuss. I mean, he might want to discuss. He still doesn't want to discuss it. He could leave at any time. I'm going to have to scramble around and find another left winger. But this is the squad. According to the game, our best 11 looks like that. I wonder if it might end up looking a little bit more like that. And maybe could we risk doing that maybe? Is that a little bit too lightweight in midfield? Could we go proper fancy and do that maybe? Maybe. Am I that fancy? Nobody's really sure. For now, we won't change anything. But we've got the 2 new boys at the back, the more defensive right back, and Gessen charging around Renault. New boy Salivate. It's a strong team. We've got strong backups in every position as well. It's the 15th of July, and we've already got a very strong team. We have hammered the team cohesion a little bit by spending as much as we've spent. Across the win, we've spent 109 since the season ticked over, plus another 70 or so. We've probably spent about 150 to 200 million. To be fair, we've also sold 100 million plus as well. So it's only a net spend of about 60 or 70 million. Our budget was 70 million, if you recall. So we're only really spending our budget. We have stuck a lot of it on the never, never, but we're moving into a new ground and we're in the Champions League. We'll worry about that later. Leeds. What? It'll be fine. Shut up. It's going to be fine. Right. Season preview. Media think 13th. I think we're better than that. And unless something happens now, I'll meet you on the first day of the season. Because unless someone sells against my will, or we get a massive offer for Belkacemi or a massive offer for Fanimo, who are the only 2 attracting interest, then we've got no more money to spend. We are officially spent up. You know the drill. We're doing our shenanigans again to get us a final £8.5 million to play with. I don't necessarily need to spend any more. I'm focused more on getting the best scouting and medical teams in the Premier League now. We're certainly almost there on scouting. We're just trying to get some medical people in. But I would like another teenager. So with £8.5 million, I think we can go and find ourselves an 18-year-old. That's the plan for the rest of the window. Oh, folks, why get one 18-year-old when you can get 3? We've got Marco Carvalho, is an 18-year-old Portuguese under-20 international with 4.5 star potential. He's a striker, joins from Porto, £7.25 million. We've utilised the never, never a little here. Willy Hulsch is an 18-year-old French under-21 international. He's a right winger who can play anywhere across the attacking midfield 3. He joins from Nantes for £9.75 million. And then we've got one more who's going to be joining us in January. Damien Gerard is a 17-year-old. He turns 18 in January. That's why he joins us then. 5 French under-21 caps already. He is a centre-back. He's joining us. It's around about £5 million, this deal. He joins us from Brest. And that really does this time complete our transfers for the summer. Yes, we're overdrawn, but we're about to get Champions League money. It's going to be fine. The media now predict us as a 12th place finish. This is the year. I genuinely think we can challenge for the title this year. We shall see, I guess. This is going to be our starting 11 for the game against Chelsea. Sabatino getting the nod ahead of Christodoulou for today. It's not the end for Christodoulou, but he's going to be rotated a little more this year, and I'm going to work out. It might end up being Sabatino and Christodoulou together. We might play Christodoulou as a ball-winning midfielder with Sabatino as a playmaker and abandon the Segundo Volante thing. I want to see how Sabatino works as a Segundo Volante first, though, because I've really enjoyed Christodoulou's runs over the last few years. But yeah, we've got the attacking left back with the more defensive right back, which was definitely part of this plan, which is another reason not to abandon it. And lots of shiny new faces on the bench as well. I think it's a very solid looking team. Fingers crossed. In the next episode, we start the season with a bang. We've got to play Chelsea, who, remember, have stolen Vincent Kompany, who's won the last 2 Premier Leagues. So it's going to be nice. I could have gone to Newcastle to replace him. They offered me an interview, as did England and every other international. I could have had so many jobs this summer. But we're going to win the league with Wembley instead. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.